All right. So now you have a chance to maybe answer a few questions. We can talk about what the return values might be for this thing. And I'm going to do the return values and what they might take in. So to insert a value, well, that's going to have to take in a value to insert, right? So int, maybe to insert or something like that. Okay. And the return value of that, well, it inserts it. We're going to assume that it always inserts it successfully. So we'll say void. Some people will put a Boolean and then do some sort of check to see if they can insert it or not or whatever. But we're not going to do that here. I made a modification. I made a remove specific value and a remove any. And typically, well, I think this is a better bag. Will make for a better bag. It'll make for better conversation at those bag parties. Okay, so if you want to remove a particular value, right, then you can pass in that value. Okay, and that'll remove a particular value. Okay, and that makes sense to do it as a Boolean, right? Because if that value doesn't exist, it shouldn't remove it. Okay. And now we have remove any, which just removes any value. Okay. And since it's an unordered bag, it can literally move whatever value you want it to. Okay. So, and what we're going to do is we're not going to pass in anything here. Okay. Now, what if you try to remove from an empty bag? Okay. Since we're using the lowercase I integer, we can't pass back a null. So we have to come up with some value that gets passed back if it tries to remove a value and it doesn't remove any value, right? Otherwise, it'll pass back the value it removes, which we will go into. Okay, so we can just pick a number for right now. When we change this to objects, then we'll just return null in that case. Okay. All right, we have size, which is the number of items currently in the bag, right? And that should be easy, right? It doesn't take in anything because it just needs to look at how many items are in the bag, okay? We have empty, okay? And empty empties the bag, okay? So it empties the bag. Well, we can assume that that's always just going to be successful, right? And so we'll make that void. Check target is yes or no, right? So it must be a Boolean. And they're saying, is this particular item in the bag? So in this case, it would be int the target to check or whatever, right? And then finally, get target count. Well, that has to be an int, right? Because it's going to return the number of a particular number, right? The occurrence, the frequency of a particular number in this thing. And that one we also have to go int target. Okay? So these are our functions, all right? So these are the functions that some outside person using our bag, just to make it clear, someone should be able to go bag A and then say something like a dot insert 5, and a 5 should be inserted into our bag, okay? And et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so this should be fairly straightforward. But notice someone can use our bag and insert and not have to worry about how this is done in the background. Okay, so there's a few more things we want to talk about. First is that interfaces in Java. So what we've created here is a public-facing interface, which means these are all the public methods of a bag, and we can refer to that as a public interface. What does that mean? Well, that means I can create an object of the bag class, and then I can call these methods on it. Okay, so if I'm not the author of the bag class, I'm a user of the bag class when I'm out here, right? And so I can create a bag, and then I can use any of these public member functions I want. I could insert values into the bag, I can check if values are in the bag, etc., okay? And so, like, you create the bag class, and then you send it out to your company, and I'm someone in your company, and I'm like, oh, cool, there's this bag class I can use, and I use your bag class. I don't have to understand anything about the bag class. I just have to understand how to use the public functions, okay? I don't have to look inside the bag class, and vice versa, right? Someone can make a class that you use, and you don't have to understand the ins and outs of it, okay? So we call this a public interface, and Java actually has a formal interface that we will talk about in the next video. But think about these functions, because these are the ones we're going to implement. And yeah, we'll get there. All right. Good.